You're listening to EduVoices, Champion Foster Futures, a podcast amplifying the voices of those transforming education for children in foster care. Each episode brings you real stories, research, and advocacy efforts to improve the lives of foster youth. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. Now, let's dive in.
Welcome back to EduVoices, Championing Foster Futures, the podcast where we amplify voices working to improve outcomes for children, youth, and families connected to foster care and education system. I'm Stephanie Barbary, and alongside me is my co-host, Dusty Palmer.
Today we are excited to bring you a bonus episode from our special Texas CASA series. Throughout this series, we've explored advocacy, policy, volunteerism, and systems of support for children and families involved in foster care. Today's conversation focuses on something incredibly important: relationships and connection.
Joining us today is Frances Lofley, a collaborative family engagement or CFE coach with Texas CASA. Frances works alongside CASA programs to help strengthen family engagement practices and build lifelong support networks for children and youth. Frances, welcome to EduVoices.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
For our listeners unfamiliar with it, how would you define collaborative family engagement?
So collaborative family engagement is an approach where we work to develop the lifetime network of support for children, their families in foster care. A network of support that will support that child, support the parents, support the caregivers, that will be stable long after all of the professionals are gone out of their lives.
One phrase that really stands out in this work is the idea of building a lifetime network. What does that actually look like in practice?
A lifetime network, as I said earlier, what we're working to develop is a lifetime network of support for these children, for their parents, for the caregivers, everyone involved in keeping this family together. And the idea is they are being a support for a lifetime. And we're looking for natural supports, whether they be relatives, relational people in their lives, or what we consider kinship, or people that are friends of the family, supports that the family has had, or maybe lost contact with along the way. We look to reconnect them with the family again, because oftentimes when families are in trauma, they have lost connection with their support system, with their family. Trauma and the reasons that they come into the foster care network to begin with has a lot of shame attached to it. And sometimes they burn a lot of bridges. And we look to not only to re-engage those people back in their lives, but to strengthen those networks of support. And the idea is they will remain a support long after all the professionals are gone, because their case will be over eventually, and they will be re-engaged. So that's one of the things that we seek to do. This is a collaborative effort from the top down. It's a very unique program that we have with our team, whereas the legislature mandates this work. They mandate for everyone, whether it be CPS, the SSCCs, or CASA, to look for family and connections up to the 4th degree of sanguinity. And CFE just brings an approach to make that work easier to do in the network. Our team is actually funded through DFPS. And so we actually work with CPS, with the SSCCs, and the CASA network to do this work collaboratively together throughout the state.
Not every child has a CASA, correct?
Correct.
But you said this is funded through
DFPS.
And so does the CFE work with kids not on a CASA case?
Absolutely. We train all of the CPS workers. We train all the SSCC caseworkers as well, including their family group facilitators, their family meeting facilitators to do this work. We've done training with investigations in some areas of the state. We've done training with some of the FBSS groups, family-based workers across the state so that they can implement this approach in their work. The idea is to support as many children in Texas in child welfare as possible.
So it sounds like CFE is grounded in the belief that no child has no one. How does that work help uncover and rebuild those connections?
That's such a common thing that we hear when we work in this area. When we start asking families, who the father is, or who else is in the family, and they say no one, nobody. Well, we know there's no such thing as not having a father. That's physically impossible. But as I said before, we understand that in order to get to this place, there's a lot of disconnection that has happened. And so we have a lot of tools and approaches where we're asking questions in different ways. We don't ask things that the investigators ask because we're looking for something different. We're not looking for placement for the child. We're looking for connections for that child. We're not looking for someone to go home with. We're looking for somebody that will be a support. And that support can look at a lot of different ways. It can be cards and letters. It can be phone calls. It can be virtual calls. It can be visits. It can work up into and often does organically turn into placements, but it doesn't have to be. We're looking for that one person that can be a support for that child.
Let's get into the 4 C's. Can you walk us through the 4 C's? Collaborate, cultivate, convene, and connect, and explain how they guide the work.
Absolutely. So with collaboration, with Collaborate, that's where we all come together, everyone that works on the case together. The CASA, the caseworker, the supervisors, the therapist, the attorneys, everyone who has the placement, everyone who has a hand in this case. We come together, we share information where we are, the information that we are legally allowed to share. CASA and CPS have different boundaries on that as far as privacy and what confidentiality requirements. And so we do rely on the caseworkers to share information because they have a higher level of things that they can share as opposed to what the CASA coordinator or the advocate can share. But we come together, we can share with each other. Because of our court orders that we have, we can share with the caseworkers. We can share with the attorneys. But we come together as a group to share that information and keep each other informed as to what we see, what we understand. And again, this is a little bit different part of the process. There's a legal part of the process that's going on at the same time, where everyone's going to court, everyone's working the court case. Family engagement work is a little bit outside of that, although it's woven in through that. We don't have that burden of the court. Both sides of this, whether you're CPS or you're the SSCC or you're with CASA, we're all working towards the same goal and for the best interest of this child. And studies have shown that the best interest of children is to keep parents involved, keep family involved as much as possible. And of course, as much as can safely be done. So in that role, we're all on the same team. We're all working towards the same goal. And I love that old African proverb where it says, you have the group of blind men and they all go touch the elephant. And they're all touching the elephant in different places. And one blind man says, this elephant, it feels like a rope with a tassel at the end. And the other blind man says, no, it feels like a big column and he's heavy. And the other blind man says, well, he feels like a big wall. He's this flat, big wall. And that's how we are on the case. We all see different parts of the piece of the puzzle. And we come together and we pull all those pieces of information to get a better picture of what this elephant looks like. And we bring it together. And it helps us to be able to work towards the things that this family and this child need. Now, with the cultivate piece, that's our searching piece. Where us as professionals, we're using tools and activities to talk to the child, to talk to the parents, to talk to placement or other family members that we're aware of already, to ask who else loves this child. Who are their support systems? Who are the people that they rely on in their lives? And to reconnect them. There's a searching piece. If they don't know where these folks are, we have the tools to be able to search for them as well. And then the convene piece, which is the third C. The convene is where we all come together for family meetings. We bring all these connections together with a few of the key professionals, and we just talk through the needs of what they have. If it's during the temporary managing conservatorship phase of the case, where parents are still working services, we're asking parents what parts of those things do they still need help with. We're not rehashing the case from how they got to this point. That was done in the adversary hearing. We're talking about, we're starting from today and we're working forward. And we don't want to, bring other hindrances into the situation. We want to talk about how we can move forward. When a person has been in trauma, and we know our kids have been traumatized, and coming into the system is trauma in itself as well. But our parents have been traumatized as well. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in this situation. They have trauma that hasn't been dealt with. And a brain that's been under trauma does not think the way it should. It doesn't process like you and I may be able to process. So when a judge hands a parent a whole laundry list of, you got to do all these things to get your kids back, a brain in trauma zones out and doesn't hear anything. And so we help build a supporting network to help them understand what step one in this process is. What do they need to do next? Who in their network can help send them reminders, give them transportation if they need it to get to visits, get those appointments set up. And we do calendars during these family meetings and give everybody a copy of the calendar so everybody knows where everybody's responsibilities are. And then we ask our people to sign up for, who's going to check on these folks to make sure everything's going well. And of course, we cue in our volunteers and our caseworkers. This is a group dynamic in doing the work. It's not all on the caseworker. It's not all on the volunteer. And we divide up the work amongst ourselves so that everyone is supported. Then, of course, the fourth C is connect. And that's where the connections are actually happening. Who's actually calling these children? Because a lot of times these kids are placed out of our region. And they may be in a facility where they don't have anyone they can talk to. Or they might not know anyone to talk to. We're looking for someone who can talk to that child and give him an outlet. Somebody can talk to about the good things that happened. He made an A on his test at school today. And he can call and brag about it. Or maybe there's something bad going on that he just misses his family, wants to vent. There's oftentimes those kiddos are only allowed to call their caseworker or their CASA. Various stipulations depending on where they're placed. They may or may not be able to call those folks all the time. And those folks are only answering the phone during certain hours. So having that other person to be able to call who knows them and can get to know them better is just a better outlet for them to be able to heal and keep them connected.
So teachers could be this person that they could connect to. Could it be a teacher that is not their actual teacher, but works there on the campus?
Absolutely.
Like maybe a male teacher, if it's a male student and needing that father figure type mentorship?
Absolutely. And that's one of those areas, especially when we find that we have, especially with older kids that may have burned all the bridges, or maybe the family has totally abandoned them and refuses to have contact. Then we're also working to develop new connections. What are their interests? What do they like to be affiliated with? Maybe there's a coach and after-school programs that they're connected to or would like to be, we can get them connected to. Getting a kiddo involved in band camp. Opportunity to make those new connections. And then talking to him and finding out who's important to him. When you do a connectedness map with them, who's important? Do a circles of trust with them. You find out real quick who they consider in their life important. And a lot of times it's friends, those coaches or private school teachers that's giving them private lessons or helping to network with them after school. That's very, very common.
So how does this model shift or expand than just the traditional role of CASA volunteers? Like, what role do they play in this?
We have a shared workload when we do this. And so CASA volunteers are very key in this because they're doing a lot of these tools and activities for collaborative family engagement with the child, with the parents, and with the placements because they see them on a regular basis or they talk to them on the regular basis. So they're able to go in and ask them, what 3 things are you worried about today? What 3 things are going great in your life today? And just asking some of these open-ended questions every once in a while in some of the tools and activities that we have, it opens up just the conversation. We also have a tool called Mobility Map. It takes about an hour to 2 hours, but you're going into, and it's not something we created. It was actually developed during the wars in Uganda, when they were having civil wars and the teenage soldiers, when they had the child soldiers were being ripped away from their families were being desolated. And then after the war, they're having to find out, where did they come from? Their villages don't even exist anymore. And so they developed this technique of going back to pull memories. And you put up a sheet of paper on the wall. We actually have a diagram that you can put on the wall to use. And that whole way of being able to face the wall with your head up and drawing helps to trigger memories. And you're asking, well, where's the earliest place you remember living? Draw a picture of it. Who lived there with you? What was your favorite thing to do there? What was your favorite memory with that person? And it gets them to talking, and they talk about their story of their life. They explain their experiences. And if they miss something, they don't remember a place, that's fine. You just move on to the next place. Where did they go to school? Who was their favorite teacher? What was the favorite thing you remember that teacher doing? And you let them draw the pictures and write the information and tell their experience of what happened. And that process starts opening up new memories. And they start remembering new things. We've done this with adults too. And done a tracking throughout an adult's life to see where their addictions coincide with coming into the child welfare system with their kids or networking with law enforcement. And it's very eye-opening for the parent to be able to see that. Mm-hmm. And to be able to say, okay, now today we're going to work through this. We're not therapists, but who are the key people that you would like to come to your family meeting? Put a star next to those people. If you could see them again and you'd want them to come to visit with you in a family meeting, who would it be? And then we do the work later on, finding out where those people are. Because oftentimes the youth doesn't. Or if they do have contact, it's usually on social media, which is fine. Let us know what they look like, their name is on socials. We'll look them up. We re-engage those folks, invite them to come. We call it a family meeting or a family gathering. We sit around in a circle and we do a lot of TBRI activities, We keep snacks and water and fidgets and tissues and just start talking about what's going on. What do we need to do? What needs to be done? And what can you do to help? And just start re-engaging folks. Mm-hmm. One of the things that Dr. Bruce Perry has done a lot of research on is that sometimes trauma happens in families. But we know for a fact healing happens in families. When you bring people back together in those relationships, healing still occurs. That's what we strive to do, is bring relationships back together. The healing will take place.
In these meetings, can you clarify the role of the child? Are they there at the meetings? I'm sure age
Sometimes.
Depends on it.
Absolutely. And the professionals that we call it the CFE team for that case, all the professionals, and it may be a parent, depending on the situation in the case, maybe a parent's involved in those conversations. Maybe it's the placement involved. But the professionals come together and decide Is this appropriate for the child? If it's an older teenager, oftentimes they want to be a part of this because they want to engage with these folks, and it's their lives. Oftentimes the younger youth we don't have engaged at that level, we're more focused on them being connected with and having these connections make contact with them in some form to lift them up, to encourage them, and be a connection for them. I remember we did a family meeting with a youth who was aging out of care within 4 days. And we did a virtual family meeting with people she hadn't seen in 6-7 years. At first, she didn't even want to be on camera, which was fine. Her CASA advocate was there, and her CASA advocate was on camera on Zoom, and the youth was sitting next to her. And we let her know, said, you don't have to be on camera. You don't have to say anything. She goes, but I want to be here. And within a few introductions, she was in the camera doing all the talking, and everybody backed off and let her go. And her and these relatives that she hadn't seen in years reconnected like nothing had happened. We just let them conversate for like an hour. And how can we get her up there? They were actually up north United States. And they were like, how can we get her here? We want her to come here with us. And she was aging out. So once she's 18, she can do what she needs to do.
If you're finding value in today's conversation, don't forget to subscribe to EduVoices, championing foster futures on your favorite podcast platform. Subscribing ensures you never miss an episode packed with powerful stories, expert insights, and actionable strategies for supporting children in foster care. Plus, it helps us continue growing this community of educators, advocates, and change makers. Now let's get back to the conversation. So then how does collaborative family engagement strengthen the collaboration across the systems, like you mentioned, like CPS or CASA, schools and communities, organizations, things like that?
One of the things that family engagement does is we definitely strengthen our work between us, each other as professionals. We say this occasionally with our coworkers is we have to be able to have engagement between each other. I have to be able, as a CASA volunteer, I have to be able to engage with a caseworker. I have to be able to relate to them and have those conversations. We have to have a good rapport to share that information and a level of rapport and trust that we know what each other is working towards and what we're sharing with each other. Because again, we're all working towards the same goal. We're working towards the best interest of this child, whatever that looks like. And every family situation is different. Every family is different. We're working with people, and people are different. So every situation is not going to have the same amount of family engagement. But we do a shared workload ideal is because it's not all on the caseworker. It's not all on the CASA volunteer. We bring all the professionals together. We've even had attorneys. We do a lot of education and training with attorneys and judges as well. We've even had attorneys that want to do different types of CFE tools and activities because they see not only the child's attorney, the parent's attorneys working with the parents. Oftentimes they want to do it themselves because they have that rapport they can control and protect their client. Oftentimes the situation with the parent is not where the attorney wants that parent to speak freely with other parties. We may sit down with that attorney and that parent together and give that attorney a list of questions up front and say, this is what we're looking for. This is what we're asking. Can we meet with you and your client? And sometimes we'll just meet with the attorney. Sometimes we'll meet with the attorney and the client. But if that attorney does not feel comfortable with that client speaking freely with us, they may ask those questions with that parent themselves and then relay that information, which is perfectly fine. The idea is we need to work through this information and find out who are these folks' connective supports. When we all come together to work together as a team, we're all on the same team. We're all doing this together, working towards the same goal. And it also builds a rapport with the judges because they know that we're all working together for the benefit of this child and not working against each other as if it's a contest.
What are some most meaningful outcomes or success stories you've seen through this work?
That's a hard question. There are so many. That's one of the things that is so beneficial about collaborative family engagement is that it works. Children spend less time in care. It's a higher percentage of children who are reunited with parents or place family for the long term than without having that collaborative family engagement work done. And so we have so many meaningful breakthroughs and outcomes. We see sibling groups of 5, 6 kids being able to stay together, or maybe in 2 smaller groups, each with a family member, families who are still engaged with each other, so they see each other all the time, rather than being adopted out by strangers who live in different parts of the country, as we see so often happens with large sibling groups. We see kiddos who get reunified with their parents quicker. We see kiddos who have, because of the trauma that they have gone through, and now they have traumatic behaviors with other people or other children. We see them to be able to have people in their life who are connected to them, who care for them, and can help them heal through those things to where they have better behaviors and better outcomes. Whereas sometimes those kiddos do end up without anybody outside of a residential treatment facility. And then they age out at the age of 18 with nobody to rely on. And I don't know if y'all remember being 18. You don't know everything. You don't hesitate to say you know much of anything about the real world. They need at least that one person when they're aging out to guide them through. What do I do next on the job interview process? My car broke down. What do I do? Or, hey, I got an interview today. Somebody to be excited for you. Somebody who can talk through things with you. What are the next steps that I need to do in life? Even though they have PAL classes and education classes, which really is about 15 hours, to educate a teenager as to what all these things they need to do for adulthood, they don't keep that. And we don't remember somebody telling us one time all the things you need to do as an adult. It's good to have that one person you can call and go, okay, what's my next step? What do I need to do? Or vent.
Absolutely.
All these things happened to me today. What do I do? Or just somebody to cry with you, somebody to laugh with you. We all need that person. But that person may not be somebody I want to live with.
So because many of our listeners are educators and school leaders, where do schools and educators fit into this work?
Our schools and educators are powerful in the lives of children and families. One of the things that we oftentimes do is talk to the teachers, and not just the current teacher. We talk to previous teachers. Teachers invest 8 hours a day into these children for 9 months out of the year, more if they're going to summer school or sports activities during the summer. So they know our kids, they know these families very well. And oftentimes we'll seek them out too, to find out who are these pickup people for these kiddos. Who is legally allowed to pick these kids up from school last year, maybe the year before, or the year before? Who did these kids mention? Our kiddos, oftentimes tell our teachers everything. I had several teachers when I was growing up that I was very close to, and I would share things. They probably knew more about my family than my family wanted them to know. And our youth will mention people that are important in their lives. And the teachers will sometimes remember those folks and be able to give us clues as to who these important people are in a child's life and where we can find them. Because if they've been on the pickup list as a pickup person, oftentimes there's a phone number to contact them.
Right.
Or, and then we can use the tools that we have available if that number's not valid anymore to still be able to find them and reconnect them with this child, to reconnect them with the family, to be a continued support.
So I would be thinking about, so how do we get this professional development to teachers for them to learn about this? Because not all teachers may not even know there's foster children that they're teaching.
They do. They know. Anytime a youth in foster care goes to school, there's a form that the caseworker has to fill out for the school. The teachers know which kids are in foster care because they have to take special protections for them. There's a lot of guidelines that go into the care for a child.
Okay, so I was aware there was a form. I didn't know if that stayed at the front office and like the administration knew how, how I would like to know more of how does it get to the teacher? How does the teacher
And I think that
aware of
it varies depending on the school, the education system that they're in. And of course, is it a teacher that just came on or was she there from the beginning of the year? It kind of depends on that school and when they're alerting that teacher to that. There's a lot of guidelines, like you can't photograph and publicize youth who are in foster care. They're protected. So then teachers have to know this so that when they're doing PR photos for any reason, those kiddos are protected. I don't know as to which part of the year, or again, it's school to school is different on that. But that would be a good thing. We do not have currently an education program that goes into the schools for this particular program. I do know that caseworkers and our volunteers talk to the educators on a regular basis.
If collaborative family engagement were fully implemented across systems, how could this approach change outcomes for children and families over the next 5 to 10 years?
Definitely would change the outlook for so many of our youth. Again, it would raise the reunification levels so that a higher percentage of youth can be reunified with their parents. And the youth that are unable to be reunified safely with parents would still be able to be engaged and placed with families, with their families, with the connections that they know, rather than strangers into our neighborhoods. We'd be able to keep them close, keep them closer to home. They would spend less time in foster care. The University of Texas in Austin did a study on collaborative family engagement in 2019. And that's what they found, that families that have collaborative family engagement principles worked at some level have a lower rate of staying in foster care. And children have a higher rate of reunification, a higher rate of being placed with families and being associated with their families than kiddos that do not have collaborative family engagement. So we know that there is evidence-based for this initiative, for this approach. It works. I've seen it over and over where people are emphatically opposed to us re-engaging parents, re-engaging families because of the stigma, the mentality of what the situation has been in the past. But what we've seen over and over, when we work this program, it works towards making better outcomes almost 100% of the time. And every family's different. Every family's outcome is going to be different. It's not a guarantee. But it does make changes in every single family that does work with. And one of the things that we do understand is that because every family is different, every situation is different, every child welfare situation is different, the reason they came into care, the situations that are going on, the level of family engagement that goes on with these families is different. You may have a situation where that child may be geared for adoption, and that's something that's unavoidable. but we still want to develop a connective support network that they can carry into that adoptive network. We want to make sure that adoptive family has a network of connections as well to support them, because it's not easy to adopt a child or a sibling group. It's not just rainbows and roses. There's a lot of things that go on. Our adoptive parents are powerful people that have an opportunity, and they go through a lot of training to be able to do this work. But they need support as well. And at some point in that child's life, those adoptive parents are going to want to have that conversation when that child starts asking, who were my people? Where did I come from? Because us as people want to know where we are and want to know where we come from. We want to know who our people are. That's 100% across the board. At some time, we want to know this. And we give them the tools to take with them so they have it ready. They have that family tree ready to have that conversation when they deem it's appropriate, at the time they deem it's appropriate.
Frances, I'm so thankful that you are here today.
Thank you.
And you were able to have this conversation with us. It comes back to that full circle when we asked Vicki, that last question is, what's that strongest initiative that you continue to wish to push? And that's most powerful, as we're saying, was this, the CFE. So we have been just waiting for this day for you to come here and talk about CFE. And I have learned so much more about the process.
And thank you for listening to EduVoices, Championing Foster Futures. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, share, and continue helping us amplify voices that support children, families, and educational opportunity. You can learn more and listen to all episodes at championingfosterfutures.com.
Thank you for joining us on EduVoices, Champion Foster Futures. We hope today's episode sparked new insights and deepened your commitment to supporting foster youth. For updates, bonus content, and upcoming sessions, follow us on our social media outlets or visit our podcast page. But until next time, keep listening, keep learning, and keep advocating.